Okay, so I'm going to go through some examples of extracts from old TMAs, and so that's the point of this presentation. Right, so as a reminder, TMA03 splits up into two parts. Part 1 is where you have 10 short questions based on using your book. It carries about 40% of the marks, and I'm not really going to talk about that for this presentation. But for this presentation is really focusing on, in effect, the mini project, and this is where I'm going to show you some extracts. Final 10%, so that carries 50% of the marks, and then final 10% of your marks is for presentation. So, as I said, the short questions we won't be talking about, so this is it's not the focus of this presentation. Please email me if you have any specific questions. Part 2, and this is where hopefully the extracts here presented are to give you some inspiration. I wouldn't consider them necessarily any ideal extracts here or model extracts that I'm presenting, so don't go away with that impression. That they are good examples and sort of have features that I want to talk about. And remember that TMA03 is aimed at creativity, so try not to come up with a standard solution for your TMA. You'll judge more on your TMA3 in terms of creativity than feasibility. So it's very tempting to go with a standard solution for your design brief, but you probably will be better looking at something that's more creative. So part 2 is broke up into three sections. Make this clearly titled in your TMA. Section 1 is where you generate, you should be looking at 10 ideas. That's standard. So 10 ideas, 4 of them taken from what they call designers' creative methods, and at least 4 of them taken from two creative methods, and at least 4 of them taken from 2 creative, what they call CPS techniques, and you've got the list there in your book, or what are possible examples you could be using. So you start off in section 1 with your 10 ideas. Section 2 is you take those 10 ideas and you shortlist down to 3. So you make a shortlist in that section 2. From that shortlist, and then you do more refined evaluation. So if they want at least for you to do a matrix evaluation, talk about materials, talk about good points, bad points for your ideas. And then section 3 is kind of reflection, really, going back to these techniques that you use to generate ideas. You choose the 2 best most successful methods and techniques. Your 2 either how can I say this? 2 approaches, which might be a method, or might be techniques, or it might be 2 methods or 2 techniques, and from that you want to go and develop your concept design, giving better sketches, really, and that's what it's about there, and doing some iteration on your design based from those 2 approaches that you consider to be the most creative. Finally, summarize your TMA with a list of benefits and potential drawbacks of the final concept that you selected. So we've gone from 10 to 3 down to 1, and then with a final summary. So that's a lot of work to do. So we're going to look at some examples. Hopefully that will give you some inspiration. So let's first focus on section 1. where, as I said, you probably want 5 ideas from this section, 5 ideas from this section. You should be aiming for 10 ideas overall. That's a typical number for a design project. Here we have an example, what the kind of sort of thing I would be expecting to see in section 1. One of the things I don't like about this particular drawing here is that the student has used pencil, which is a shame. You should be a bit braver and use a dark gel pen, really. The paper also seems to be some sort of artistic paper here, or it's a poor scan. So it's not really coming across the words here, but what's good is that we get a feeling that ideas are flowing down on the paper here. We've got some feeling here, if you see these two drawings, some sort of morphological approaches being applied, and also we've got here, they're sort of holding a plant, how things could maybe be changed here. So we've got one drawing and then we've got the arms being taken out. I've got labeling of what things are, so these are plungers. I've got some description here, so this is the kind of sort of drawings that you'd expect to be seeing in your section 1. This is a very nice example, I think. As I said, it could be improved with white paper, could be improved with gel pen. We've got some space here, so we can maybe jot in more ideas down. We've got questions. The student is asking him or herself some comments. How can things be resolved? All good stuff. So from the same student, again, we've got a question there. They're doing sketches now based on, I think, probably random stimuli of tree roots. How do tree roots form here? Lacking description. So I would like to see more description on this. Why is this wavy drawing being done? This looks nice. Okay, so some feedback they're giving themselves. They're still asking questions. Again, various drawings done in sketches. And probably for section 1, I would you want to get a feeling that your drawings are building up in style as you go through the TMA. So black and white, but maybe I would probably sketch in my tree roots here to make it more obvious. Label this up tree roots, and that could improve the sort of like the presentation of this particular drawing. But so nice sets of drawings. We've got some sort of morphological change in here. Got different drawings here. So this is from the side. This is a perspective drawing, and I suppose this is a wave, which is then leading on to the morphological generation of ideas here. So you can sort of see what's going on. From same student. Lots of ideas, cross-section, cut through, annotation, so tricky center of balance, pointing out that this is a problem, so they're using annotation here to point out a problem. So you want arrows to annotate things, get a sense of movement in your drawings. Here we've got the first example of, I would call it a cartoon bubble. So where I've encapsulated, I just want to sort of like put a taxonomy around a particular class of ideas. That sort of thing you can use. Again, we've got annotation, an arrow pointing to something, some words going on. We can see if this was done in black gel pen, got better paper this time, these words would be a lot easier to read. I can barely read this. Okay, so this is an example, I think looks like a good example to me, of how your individual pots in this particular system that they're using can be stored. And I do have again side view, perspective view. I've been given this arrow here to tell me that these two drawings are connected, so that's the side view. So it would have been better maybe to label up side perspective. And here on the same drawing we've got a sense of things being morphed from one design to another design, so that's also a good feature. And there's a vague but not detailed reference being made to the technique that's been used here. Don't necessarily have to have drawings in your section 1, although for this particular student they did follow up pictures, so you can still do research in section 1, but they did follow up from the pictures and then do some sketches, so that's another option. And this is their follow-up drawing, so they first of all incorporated all those pictures and then they incorporated this drawing, sort of summarized their idea inspired from that particular piece of research methodology they used. The thing that attracted me to this drawing here, that's always well, that's the negative, is that they used lined paper, which is really awful for a sketch. But the nice thing is that they've kind of done post annotation on it, so that's something else you consider. So we're using post annotation using text print here. So the text have been put on, and also post annotation with these computer drawn lines. So your drawings don't necessarily have to be finished when you put them into your TMA. You then might want to go, I want to put some post annotation on here and indicate what things are supposed to be to explain it to the reader. In terms of this particular drawing here, we do have a little bit of annotation there, so a lot of the toast flying out. That's nice. Could have given us more details, could have given us more description in the drawing. If you're trying some of the more formal techniques, or the informal techniques, think about taking a grab from the textbook and then using this as a figure in your TMA and saying, I'm going to go do associative thinking and I'm going to use this checklist. So that's something else that you could be doing. So you're kind of referencing your textbook, aren't you? But you're actually taking a chunk out of it as an image, incorporating it in your section 1, and then you could go on and sort of like address these points, check point 1, point 2, point 3. So it's kind of a cunning way to get around the word count. And this drawing, the thing that attracted me to this drawing was this little bit here with the USB port. So that was you could consider it to be design iteration when they finally presented when they sort of like iterated previous design. And I suppose the point is that your drawings that you've produced, if you're a designer, you'd produce them in a logbook, don't necessarily are finished. Even at this stage, you could do some post-production on them, so they've incorporated that little USB looking slot there. And as I mentioned before, the student, you can see, is doing post annotation of their drawings, describing things using text, which comes across quite nicely. But they probably should have incorporated these comments while they were sketching them up anyhow. So in section 1 you might use a mind map here. I don't know whether this is if this is software generated or not. I suspect not. It doesn't look that great, does it? So they've done maybe they've used some sort of a drawing package and they've come up with their own mind map. Then this one comes across quite nicely using some bubbles. So we've got the center bubble there, and then we've got different sort of like word boxes here, and so that looks fine. It's a little bit boring. What you could have done, so what the student could have done, is they could have post post annotated this maybe with colors, maybe make the lines thicker where they're closer to the root of the topic that you're looking at. But so I suppose the point here is that you could use software, and then you can post annotate it, or you could use a drawing package like the student assumably has done, and again you could post annotate it to make it look a bit more funky. On this drawing here, the students asking themselves questions. That's good to see on a drawing. So do they use suckers, velcros, adhesive strip? How they're going to get it to fix? Everything straightforward. Nice sort of sketchy type drawing. What do you expect to see in the section 1 section? Unfortunately, again, using pencil, not gel pen, but okay. So questions are being said on the page, some annotation describing where things are working. So here we've got a mind map, hand and written obviously. They've used some colour highlighter pens to identify the main routes. That looks very nice, isn't it? Again, we've got a different, this time we've gone the other way around. We've got a square with circles. I would have thought that'd be more sort of traditional for mind map. And this is nice, isn't it? This big exclamation eye gets attracted to that. And I was wondering, we got sort of like variation perhaps of whether I am using uppercase or lowercase, but perhaps not. So I was thinking that looks lowercase, but no, it's all uppercase, isn't it? So everything's written uppercase. So that might be something else you might want to consider. For example, you might want to use the titles as uppercase, then switch to a lowercase for the more minor terms. But yeah, but this whole thing comes across quite nicely. Just using that highlighter pen, it improves it a lot. Quite a funky font there being used to describe the mind map. Of course, it's fairly obvious it's a mind map. Questions are being thrown in there. What else can we see? We've got that's about it, really, isn't it? When you're doing your drawings, think about the views and perspective. So on this particular drawing, they're drawing some sort of cylinder, and they've labelled up, or this is what it's going to look like from the front, and this is what it's going to look like from the rear. So consider labelling your drawings using front, rear, side, top, etc. per perspectives. And again, we've got annotations of why I want to show you the rear, because I want to show you where the suckers are going to be located. Shame that we've got line paper on our drawings. Lots of things are being labelled up, so that's all kind of nice. But the reason why I introduced this drawing into this presentation was because of this. Look at the figure caption here. So figure 3, 2 options, it's a novel, and that's good. So try and be descriptive as much as possible in your figure captions. Alright, so one professor told me, I don't want to read your report, I just want to read your, look at your figures and read your figure captions. So your figure captions should be telling your story. You can craftily exclude them from your word count if you wanted to, and then that's another way to introduce more description into your TMA. So have a nice long figure caption, explain to the reader what is being presented, and maybe even include things like what's the advantages, so you can be a bit more verbose. Aim to be verbose in your figure captions. Breakdown of components. One of the things of this drawing that's nice is that we've got X-ray vision, so we can see through the drawing, students question themselves about features of what can be what features can be handled. And notice one of the things that they've included, because this comes up in your learning outcomes, is maintenance. So that might be an issue that's not obvious that you might want to introduce into a TMA, but by putting that subtly in, then you're showing the marker that you are considering issues of maintenance. So you could look for TMA sort of keywords and then sort of like pepper them in your sketches to sort of like sneakily demonstrate you are making reference to your learning outcomes. Again, they think this could be from the same student here, but we've got the same sort of approach, highlighting the main branches, highlighting the main bubbles. Okay, so another mind map, same sort of style. Other stuff that you could be doing, you want to be sort of in effect having a logbook when you're doing your TMA, or just scraps of paper, ideally plain paper. But although this is acceptable because we're making a brain writing session here, so we would expect line paper, and you could then do a sort of an image grab or a photograph or scan of those particular bits of your logbook, and then incorporate them in your write-up here. So we've got evidence of that's coming from, in effect, their logbook there. If you are doing that, one thing you would expect in a proper design logbook is that every page has been dated when it was first edited, and then maybe at the bottom you might put another date there where it was reviewed or where additional comments were added. For section 1, this bit too good for me. It's probably something I would expect to be seeing in section 2, but the student, what's really good about this is that when they're doing their idea drawings here, they've put a little summary of good points, bad points. Again, this is something that has to be done in your section 2, so I don't really know whether this should be in a section 1 section. This is a sort of write-up I would be expecting to see in a section 2 section, but certainly when you're doing your section 1 section, you want to be telling the reader good points, bad points or problems, and these probably all should be dumped here onto the sketch. So that's good, that's bad, so, and maybe even description. So it's very nice that the student's done this. It's probably a bit too formal for a section 1 section, but you should be thinking in terms of good points, bad points, and then writing them on your sketch. And here you can see this is getting very formal for a section 1 section. We're almost looking now at section 3. In fact, we are, aren't we? I mean, it's the final product design almost type drawing that what we're seeing here. But again, they're making a nice description which could be dumped here. Good points, bad points, which could be highlighted, annotated on the sketches, so that might be something that you might want to then post, annotate your drawings with. What are the good points? Where can I stick them in my drawing? Give yourself some space to do that. I love this mind map because we've gone colourful. So we've used different colours in our cartoon bubbles, and also we've gone colourful, and also we've gone with nice thick roots at the centre bubble, and then our roots, our lines here become a little thinner. That's kind of a nice feature, isn't it? Oops. Ooh, I've gone too fast. So these are not necessarily, as I said, ideas that you should be using, but hopefully it gives you some inspiration. So we've gone on to green section. Now, section 2 is where you're doing the evaluation, and you want to now shortlist your 10 ideas down and make it into a free shortlist, and then evaluate them. So I don't know if you recall, but the student was previously using just pencil, and they've gone into section 2. So what they've done is this really subtle thing. It's a nice thing is that they've now introduced, made the plants that they're hanging into little green plants as opposed to grey pencil. So what they're doing is they're giving the reader a sense of progression in terms of sketches. So we've started off with grey pencil, which again I should be really gel pen, and then on section 2, where I'm going to show you more drawings of it, more developed, I'm now going to use a green pen. So maybe a green pen and maybe a highlighter, so just keep it fairly minimum here, but that gives you a sense of that your drawings are getting better and less sketch-like. Okay, so again we can see drawings. I don't know if you recall their previous drawings, which would like they dump in loads of ideas on the page, but their drawings here are becoming a bit more formal, cross-sectioned. So, so in terms of the style of drawings and getting the drawings to look nicer and lighter, and the annotation to look more formal, I think they've done a brilliant job in terms of how much they're toning up or they're refining their drawings as they've gone in through their TMA. Okay, so in section 2 you must include some sort of matrix selection graph. So matrix system here, so this is a fairly standard one. They've included a datum there, so that's a good thing to do if there's a common solution that you can make a reference to. Here the student has given the 3 ideas in one sketch. That's nice. So so I think, or at least I think that's what we got. Yeah, the three shortlisted ideas. So we've got the 3 shortlisted ideas that they can use. So we want nicer drawings of your 3 shortlisted ideas. Maybe put them all on one sketch, and then you can sort of like do a little bit of contrast in that one particular drawing. That's a nice approach. On this matrix system, one of the nice features, well, so they're using weighted scoring, but one of the nice features that draws me to it is the fact that this has included comments for every single attribute that they're considering. So having a comments column there was quite nice. Would have been nice if we had some sort of color coding actually inside here. So maybe things which were high, scoring high, could be highlighted red or green or whatever is appropriate. So there may be some color coding in the matrix system itself, would be also a nice feature. In section 2 you should be making lists of benefits, so keep them formal, use in bullet points or tables. So so the bullet points, what are the potential benefits, that's quite essential. Your drawings now should be coming a little bit more formal, like this. So this is using a standard perspective drawing, a cross-section drawing. So section 2 section is really when we should start be thinking using more formal drawing approaches as opposed to sketching. Here we've got the list of benefits, and they've incorporated that in a drawing. So we've got the list of benefits. The benefits, I suppose we could sort of like annotate. I think maybe my annotation lines have gone a bit wrong here from the screen catcher, but maybe we could list these 1, 2, 3 and then incorporate that in the drawing, so that list of benefits and the drawings are closely related. But we've got a fairly good relationship here already. So shortlisting, so these are the 3 that have been shortlisted. Notice the student has also told us why they've rejected the other designs. So that's also a good thing, you know, always think out of the box. So these are the reasons why we've accepted these, and these are the reasons why we've rejected these. So that's quite a nice idea. This is actually a datum, so this is I'm comparing it to a datum solution, so I'm telling you what the cost is, and I'm giving you the breakdown of the materials and so on. So this is a good way to present my datum that I'm going to compare to my other designs. Datums are all listed 0 there. What they could have done is they could have done a little cartoon drawing, because I've got quite a bit of space here, so maybe have a little cartoon drawing of what those 5, 6 and 7 concepts were. So incorporate maybe drawings onto your evaluation chart. Okay, going on to yellow section. So we are now looking at section 3, quite a lot of marks here, so 20 marks, and you are supposed to describe your 2 approaches and then do further results based on those 2 creative approaches, and then summarize the benefits and drawbacks. So we've done basic sketches, and now we are going to do a mock-up, or maybe even make the real thing like Homer has done here. So remember our student, they started off with grey pencil, simple sketching, then they introduced a little green for the plant, and now they've introduced shading, they've introduced blue for the water, so the style of the drawings have definitely improved. Could have been maybe, I suppose, as we're at section 3, probably this writing should be a little bit more formal, maybe a little bit, just has to be a little bit neater, I think, than it is given here. And these lines again, they could have been done better, sort of like smoother, not necessarily using a ruler. I think I don't really like ruler lines, but smoother lines. If they used a gel pen, again, that would look better. Okay, so we're in section 3. This is probably looking more section 1 type drawing though, isn't it? And I can't remember why I put this in this why I selected it. I think perhaps it was the bubble here, the cartoon bubble using here, so to demonstrate some sort of taxonomy of ideas, but I think this is really a section 1 type drawing. So section 3 we should be having mock-ups, and this is a fairly good looking mock-up. So we've got the sticky things here, some sort of bag, and our plant. It would have been cool, wouldn't it, to make the plant green. No need to dimensionalize drawings, but no reason not to. The pencil was really difficult to see though, and either the scanner's poor or the paper's poor, but very difficult to read this drawing. But so section 3 is now the point, if you wanted to include a dimensionalized, more technical drawing like this. Section 3, include a drawing where you're breaking down components, and this is what we're supposed to be showing here. So we've got the plungers, some sort of taglines. So we're doing a breakdown of components drawing, so that might be something that you want to include in section 3. A nicer technical drawing here, or pseudo-technical drawing with these bits, the plungers added on. So that's the final finished concept to show the reader. Section 3 needs to have a list of positives and negatives, so you could maybe do them in a table like this, and they've weighed, try and keep them balanced, the number of positives against your number of negatives, and they've so for every positive they thought of a negative, so that's kind of nice. Mock-ups, so here we've got another mock-up. This one's made out of cardboard, it's a toaster. Okay, so that's good. And in this particular case they've done bullet points, so it's probably easier to do bullet points because you're not going to be completely balanced like that other student was. So the list of benefits slightly outweighs my drawbacks of my designs, but I've bullet pointed them. So and I've used short words: lightweight, relatively inexpensive, and so on. Okay, what they could have done is they could be explicit how these relate to criteria in your design brief. So your design brief, what you could do is you could list up criteria C1, C2, and so on, or whatever numeric labeling you want to do, and then say how your design relates to relatively inexpensive, and maybe that's C3 in your design brief. So then you're telling the reader how you've explicitly considered the benefits in comparison to your design brief. A very formal drawing here, as I said, not particularly required, but that section 3 is now the point to be considering them. So we've got a front side view and a section view, so almost like a British standard drawing. And kind of almost again a sort of British standard type drawing with dimensions and looking at different perspectives. So we've got just another example. When you're doing a mock-up here, what you could be considering is what sort of background. So the other background, we had the person's keyboard and so on, so we've got more of a formal background here. And also what we could have done is we could have taken photographs at different perspectives, and you could then sort of like do a side view, a top view, and a perspective view, or whatever it might be, and then put them all in one figure. So that's something else you could consider with your photographs. In section 3, another way to jazz up your final drawings is to consider using shading. So shading's been nicely used in this drawing here. Or almost a pseudo a piece of free art here. So this is almost an artistic impression of the final concept design, and that's something else that you might want to consider incorporating in your section 3 section. Okay, if your drawing's not that great, then you could be more formal and use perspective lines, orthogonal, but then incorporate them with a bit of shading, which jazzes up the drawing. We've got a subtle bit of using of colours here, so some sort of browns going on. Maybe we could use a bit more colours, make it a tad more colourful, but again, the browns is better than using just grey shading. Other things you can have in your section 3 is you could have how it's manufactured, how the components break down, pre-manufacture. And here the student has used photographs to demonstrate how the prototype can be broken down into its components or collapse form. So that's also another nice feature. Use your photographs from different perspectives and different stages of construction. So a very formal drawing. When you're doing a formal drawing, you might want to switch now to square paper, which I would consider to be acceptable. And then finally you have a summary and make reference. Have we make reference? Yeah, make reference to your design brief and then the design benefits. And I would formally make reference to your design brief. So as I said, very quick and simple, efficient method for collapsing and extending, and perhaps that was criteria 4 or 5 or whatever in your design brief, so then you can sort of be ticking them off. I don't know if you've heard of something called sort of like oh, what's it? Oh, it's slipped my brain. Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, so we're now in the red zone, so we've now finished. So one of the things I want to emphasize is consider new ways of doing things, new ways of presenting things. Try thinking out of the box. Show some creativity in your TMA. Your TMA should be built upon your TMA02, and you should probably include your design brief somewhere for the marker to incorporate. Most people would incorporate in the appendix section. They would shove the design brief in there. or you could, this was quite cunning, a student actually incorporated it into their main body, and what they did was they took a screenshot of their design brief and then incorporated it into the main body of their of their TMA, and thereby avoiding the word count. So that was quite a clever technique, I thought. So that's the end of my presentation, and I hope it was helpful.